Hey everyone, we'll get started in about 1 minute. Ashley, where are you calling in, zooming in from?
I went back to visit my classroom that I had been teaching in, and I taught some math with them. So I'm just leaving there, and I'm sitting in the parking lot.
Awesome. And you're in Idaho, so yeah, we've got you're probably the furthest away today.
Woohoo!
Great. Well, let's just get. Oh, there comes Robin. We'll just get started here and begin our conversation with STEM Educators of the Year in the state of South Carolina. Amy Baldwin, hi Amy, is the 2021-2022 STEM Educator of the Year. And her friend and colleague from a different district is also the Tracy Elmore, the 2020-2021 STEM Educator of the Year. And I consider myself privileged and honored to know both of these amazing educators and see them all the time in meetings, but also I thought it'd be great to have a conversation and talk about, you know, why they were selected, because they are excellent, hear about some of that, and just sort of talk about STEM, have a conversation about STEM. So the chat box is open, and as is the mute button, so you can unmute yourself at any time with questions for everyone. But I'll get us started off here with Amy and Tracy. Do you mind? Hey, we'll start with Amy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been teaching, where you teach, what you teach, and then we'll pass the mic to Tracy.
Absolutely, Josh. So my name is Amy Baldwin. I teach in Latson, South Carolina, which is in the Summerville area, outer side of Charleston. I currently teach gate-rated technology to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I met my new students today, so getting to know them today. This is my 22nd year in public education. I did 13 years of middle school math and science before moving over into the STEM field. And super passionate about STEM education and super passionate about girls in STEM. And I'm super excited about my numbers in girls this semester. So Tracy, I'll send it on to you.
I'm Tracy Elmore, and I teach at Lugoff Middle in Kershaw County, Lugoff, South Carolina, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th graders as well as a related arts class. And I teach many things, automation and robotics, flight and space, energy and environment, 3D design, and advanced automation. I've been teaching for 34 years, going on 35. And I just started with my students as well. We've had them a week, so I'm getting to know them and just getting started in our curriculum. So excited to see what's going to happen with that. And I'm right there with Amy about females in STEM and inspiring them and encouraging them to do what they need to do in life.
Well, we definitely want to talk a little bit more about that, but can we first just get the elephant out of the way? What is a STEM Educator of the Year in the state of South Carolina? What does that mean? Like, how do you become one? And tell us, well, one of you, I think I had Amy on my notes. If Amy, if you want to tell us a little bit about what that means. And I think the applications are still open for this fall coming year. So, you know, you can apply, but Amy, tell us, how do you become one and what are the rewards and benefits and what does it entail? And then Tracy will go into your year of what, we'll start with Tracy and come back to Amy.
Absolutely. So to be a STEM Educator of the Year, you have to be nominated. A lot of times it's nominations. You can self-nominate, but it's a lot of nominations by parents, other faculty members who see that you go above and beyond to try to inspire and encourage more individuals to look at aspects of the STEM fields. And that's where, you know, kind of goes with it. They end up taking that pool of people. They have a packet where you answer questions similar to a state teacher of the year or a national teacher of the year. And then the finalists get selected, one from each region of the state. So I love that this recognizes across the regions of the state. And then those 5 finalists do their final interview and they are awarded their STEM Educator of the Year. And as a STEM Educator of the Year, I get to attend lots of great workshops and state events that how I met Josh through through Tracy, who was great. I've met Dallas, and I work a lot with the STEM centers and different STEM organizations in the state who want my opinion, want to know what they can do to help STEM educators in the state. So again, trying to grow and expand. And this year we started a STEM cohort with all of the past finalists and teachers of the year, where we're putting together activities and lessons and contests that will be shared during STEM Education Month in South Carolina. And even though I heard you say somebody was from Idaho on the call, they could even be able to access things and use those resources. Again, just trying to encourage and promote more STEM education across the country.
Awesome. And Tracy, maybe you want to tell us a little bit, because when you get nominated, did you go to the Capitol and it's part of the STEM Education Month? And tell us a little bit about STEM Education Month and then the awarding of it, just to get a sense of it.
Yeah. When I was awarded, it was COVID.
Yeah.
Things were shut down. So we had to do things a little different, which was fine. So I was able to go to the State House for the STEM Education Month or day. It was just the guest speakers that were able to go,
Gotcha.
which was still nice. It was amazing to be there. It meant a lot. Amy, I hope you get to go this year. It was a fabulous day. The awarding of it, they came to my door since we were shut down. And I was in my breakfast nook doing my speech and all that stuff, and didn't realize that my whole staff from my school was outside my door as well. My daughter had gotten that fixed up, and that was amazing and wonderful, and did a parade around the neighborhood, and it was just a lot of fun.
That's
But
really
you know, even during the COVID time when the world was kind of shut down a little bit, you know, Zoom and Google Meet and things like that, we could still get things done, and PDs completed, and, you know, learn from each other and network and stuff. So it's an amazing time. Even, you know, this year, a year after my recognition, my reign, whatever, I'm still able to be involved.
That's great.
And I enjoy that.
So that's something I think, you know, in my experience, I had a fellowship, you guys, but like when it takes you out of the classroom for a year, what do you learn when you step out of the classroom as a STEM educator and you start to see some of the things around you that maybe you weren't aware even existed, and now you have a greater awareness of it? Like, how would you tell STEM educators to, like, maybe, you know, pick their head up out of that classroom and see some of those stuff? So maybe Amy, if you want to start.
Yeah, and our reign's a little different than a state STEM teacher of the year. We continue teaching and do our activities and things after school, unlike a state teacher of the year leaves the classroom, works for the state, comes back. So more like a fellowship, like you said. But it's great because it's actually been very eye-opening to me to hear what the other finalists have done, the meetings that, you know, Tracy and I have sat in, where businesses are reaching out, wanting to help. They're sharing their concerns with us, that what we're seeing, so then we can share those back to members of the state. And it's been a really inspiring time to just see things, you know, like you said, most STEM teachers don't necessarily live in a bubble. We're all looking, but it's nice to see all that final information just brought to the forefront, and those great conversations that we get to have.
So both of you had, I believe you had sort of like a mission for your year, like the thing you wanted to accomplish. So Tracy, do you want to tell us about yours, and then Amy about yours, and then we'll keep talking about Amy's sort of as the next segment.
Yeah, mine was trash to treasure. Building a STEM program, a good solid STEM program on a budget.
Yep.
So you don't have to have lots of money in order to have STEM in your classroom, and it doesn't have to be like we have a related arts class that's STEM, but it could be in core classes as well. And that's something I'm working on within my school culture, is trying to help the core teachers to see how important STEM is within their curriculum, within their classrooms, just trying to branch out more than just a related arts class. And through STEM camps and STEM clubs, with having some of the core teachers come in and help, is kind of opening their eyes to what we do in our classroom and how we are developing those skills and concepts that they're talking about in their classrooms, and that we are together in this, that it's a group, it's a family. I feel it breaks my heart when I hear teachers or schools say, well, we don't have STEM because we can't afford it. And I want them to know you can. There are ways to do that. There are many ways to do that. And one is through Learning Blade, of which we'll talk more about because it's a free resource. So it's a great way to start a STEM program using Learning Blade. And then, you know, like I said, there's so many other ways that you can do that.
So when you talk about trash to treasure, what do you mean? What do you explain that a little deeper for us?
So I beg people for their trash. I send emails out asking for old CDs or DVDs, cardboard, whatever they have, paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls, whatever they have to put in my classroom to use for engineering projects and designs.
Yeah. Can I, one thing I remember I did is I asked for people's old electronics that they have laying around, and then I would have kids take them apart and use the electronics as sort of art, but, you know, part of the story of the projects they were building, right? So it looked more looked more official, right? So they got to learn to take things apart. I'm not really good at putting it back together, but for sure. Well, that's amazing, Tracy. Do you have a resource or a place you go to learn about trash treasure ideas?
Just a lot of Googling, things that I've learned through conferences that I've attended, classes that I've attended, picture books. I use a lot of picture books with my curriculum because I mean, middle school students and high school students love for you to read to them. They love the simple little stories that tell, like for an engineering design of a sustainable car that I do, you know, if I built a car as a book that I read to the students, and it's all about the engineering design process and how this kid is designing this wonderful car that has a swimming pool and a chef, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff in that car. It can go underwater, it can fly. I mean, it's an amazing vehicle that he's designed, but it gets them thinking about that engineering design process and about designs of an air-powered car that they might want to do. You know, we talk about force and motion and read picture books like on Move It or Newton's Laws, you know, just that gets them going, as well as using the science standards. And now
I gotta ask, when you say you're reading a picture book to middle schoolers, are they sitting around in a circle like in kindergarten when the teacher's reading them a book?
No, they're sitting in their seats, but I walk around showing the picture. Sometimes
Awesome.
if it is on SOAR, I can do it digitally and project the book digitally, but sometimes it's not on there. But no, I just walk around and show the book. And
I think it's an incredibly innovative idea to bring just the idea of storytelling where you're reading to them. I'm so glad you pointed that out as something that you do.
Well, literacy is important, and science literacy is really important in STEM as well as just life. So
yeah, 21st century skill. Amy, what was the initiative that you're like, you got all your energy behind this as your STEM Educator of the Year?
So my initiative is called Changing the Face of STEM, because when I started being a related arts teacher or coaching robotics teams, I just wasn't getting enough girls, and that was bothering me. So I have worked really hard over the last few years to increase the enrollment of females in my program, and also increase the enrollment of minorities in my program, which makes me super happy that my classes are way more diverse than we started with. Still have room to grow as always, but moving in that right direction. Mine started because, again, I was coaching robotics teams. I was seeing my numbers low, but my real push was my Girl Powered initiative when I had an all-girl robotics team who made it a state. And then the next year they said, I think we should have more girls. So they encouraged me, and Vex Robotics reached out to me to host a Girl Power event. And my first event had 63 girls and 21 female volunteers spend an entire Saturday coming and doing STEM activities, learning about STEM careers. And the number one complaint was it just wasn't long enough. So it was great. Unfortunately, COVID has still stifled our in-person plans for a reunion of our Girl Power. Actually, the day our state shut down, the very next day, we were supposed to have Girl Power 2.0. So, but we have rallied, we have done some virtual STEM events. We made the month of October was virtual STEM activities. We just popped them on and the kids did them when they had time on their free time and shared them out with each other and had a lot of kids. We had third, fourth, fifth graders, as well as kids all the way up to the high school. And my original batch of kids are in the high school now and they're ready to come back and volunteer and help. And then a big thing that I started this year as we were going through the Changing the Face of STEM, and I think you can probably see it in my background, we've started our Gateway to Greatness Wall. These are students who have graduated from Gateway to Technology and gone on to do things in STEM careers or STEM fields. So they actually have shared back their advice to the students about things they learned from GTT to help them in their STEM careers in the future. So it's kind of neat. It's a nice hodgepodge mix of personalities, kids doing all different kinds of things. We have a young lady who published her first book, which is a science fiction book. I have a baseball player on there who wants to do sports and entertainment management. And he talks about all the STEM sides of it that he's learned about all the companies that he's working with. And then I have one student getting ready to do an internship at Boeing. So it's a nice variety, but it's neat that the kids are wanting to reach back to those students from the experience that they've learned here. I will share if anybody is interested in just the initial kickoff to Girl Power. I'll share that in the chat. Girl Power is an initiative through Vex Robotics, and they have great free resources there just to even just get you started. And then anyone, and Josh, you're always welcome to share my email. I have an entire Google Drive where it has what we used with schedules mapped out. So you can actually run the event. You don't have to think through it. I have a time block schedule. I have a planning sheet, everything for you ready to go to run an event at your school, whatever your COVID protocols allow. So we're looking to try to do another one. We were going for February. We may be ending for March with the numbers on the rise again, but we're trying to have another in-person one. And I know when we do, it's going to be an awesome event.
So Amy, if you don't mind putting your preferred email in the chat box. And
sure, I'm going to put my personal one because that's the one that has the Gmail in it. So I'll drop that in there for you.
And that's Amy's personal email that she will connect you to a folder with everything for Girl Power events. So I think on the subject line, you should probably say Girl Power and she'll know what you're talking about. I don't want to leave Tracy out because Tracy, you do stuff for girls in STEM too. What have you been working on?
So we, I don't have Girl Power yet, but we have done this past summer, we did a STEM camp for girls, and Josh actually was a guest speaker of ours. And he has a book about females in STEM that is a fantastic book. I think you actually have more than one. And he actually sent those books for my girls, and they were so excited to receive those books. We have a STEM club, but that is a mixture of boys and girls, multicultural diversity, just whoever wants to join the STEM club. That we have once a month. And we have family night. Well, we have had family night this year. I don't know right now.
For your girl thing this summer, didn't you have like college engineering students sort of be there to sort of be that mentor role model in the room? Tell us about that.
Yes. They actually joined in on our family STEM night as well. And I was.
How did you find them? How do you find these engineering students that want to participate with you?
So we put out on our school Facebook page. It's hilarious how this happened. I actually taught one of the girls. The other one, she was on the other team in 6th grade when I taught 6th grade science. But we actually put out on our Facebook page about the STEM camp for girls and the application. And Bailey texted me and said, Madison and I want to help you. And I was like, really? Okay, cool. So they were amazing. They were so good with those girls and helping them, talking to them about why they chose the careers. One's a civil engineer, one was a mechanical engineer. Madison actually goes to the Citadel, and she wants to do mechanical engineer within the government with military. And then Bailey is civil but structural engineer.
And how
They talk-
did you find the students reacting to young female engineering students? What was like their overall like vibe of that?
They were very happy that those girls were there. They asked them a lot of questions. They depended on them a lot. The main thing that they kept asking them over and over was, why did you choose to go into engineering? And, you know, of course, they kept saying Bailey and Madison did not have STEM when they came through.
That's right.
So they were like, y'all, we would have loved to have had these classes that y'all have. So they encouraged them, the girls, to really take part in what we have at our school. The funniest part was they were building a bridge, and I put Madison and Bailey out in the hallway because I didn't want my students to see their bridge since they were engineering students. And Madison and Bailey felt pressure because they didn't want their bridge to fail since they were engineering students. But it was a great asset, and they came to speak at, Madison had to speak virtually, but Bailey came to speak at our family STEM night. And the parents that were there very enjoyed a lot of what they had to say and how they got into the field that they were in and the internships. They talked about the internships that they received. And Madison actually is going to be in Ohio, I think it is, this summer. She might not be able to help with STEM camp for girls.
I can hear how proud you are of your 2 volunteer engineering students. But I think as a strategy, reaching out to the community, seeing if there's any younger, near peer college students that want to just come in for a day and talk about what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they got there. I have on the slide here, I'm just showing this, but this is research that says even a brief exposure to a woman scientist role model enhances female students' identification with interest in STEM. So I think, you know, that's what you guys are doing with your initiatives, is providing those early exposure points that get students really excited about that. So,
and having them see somebody that's like them,
yeah,
I think is important. And we've talked about that in some other of our STEM meetings. You know, they need to have people like them as role models.
So changing gears a little bit, I'm really, obviously, with Learning Blade being a career awareness platform, I'm interested more with the story arc here. Have you guys, because you both said you've taught, you know, 20 plus years, 30 plus years, have you noticed a change in education in the desire to try and introduce like multiple, vast, varied careers into the classroom? What are you seeing? Why do you think people are doing this? And we'll go back.
Well, when I started teaching, it was always make sure you make a real world connection. That's all you heard. Make sure you make a real world connection. But the shift has been more, especially around the Low Country in the last 10 years, with Boeings, the Volvos, the BMWs, and Mercedes-Benz picking up here, not just a real world connection, but it's like a career connection, because these manufacturing companies and these big companies want these kids to realize at an early age that they can do these jobs, start getting the foundation skills in middle school and high school, going to these career schools, going to a 4-year or 2-year college, going to the tech schools and coming in and working for them. They want them to start seeing that now. And my big push, and I know Tracy's probably the same way, is there's so many opportunities for these kids that didn't exist when I was a kid. And careers, I joke with them all the time that, like, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I say, well, I just want to know what I'm going to do when I grow up and stop teaching. Like, what's my next line of work?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many careers that I've learned about that I didn't even know existed. And, you know, one thing I love about Learning Blade is it's not just the same careers you've heard about over and over again. I mean, there's so many careers that are in there that I'm like, I didn't even know there was a career. Let me watch that video and see what it's about. but it's very interesting, and it helps them start to see different things that they want to do. You know, you're not hearing the typical answers anymore of students like, you know, everybody wants to be a YouTuber, everybody wants to be a, you know, football player. You're hearing that, but then you're also hearing things like software developer. Like the kids, all they used to say is I want to play video games, but now they're talking about software developer, or, you know, I want to be able to build those planes and not just, you know, not just ride in them now. And I think it's really cool, the different things that they get to see and experience with that.
Awesome. And Tracy, in your, you know, 3 decades of teaching, have you noticed a change in how teachers and schools and educators are addressing, you know, the fact that I think we've all heard the saying that the jobs of tomorrow don't even exist, like, but how we're trying to bring that into the classroom?
I definitely have. I mean, back when I started teaching decades ago, you talked about careers, but you didn't really, like, it wasn't real life, real world. When I first started teaching, it was, you talked about careers. Okay, you need to learn this algebra because you're going to need it when you go to work, but they didn't really like explain to you like why you have to have it, how you're going to use that. And now I see that that's being more developed, and the students are understanding, like Amy said, they're understanding how what they're learning now is going to help them in their future and help them to be successful. I think part of it too is that the students are able to, I guess, be seen and be heard. They want to do this particular career, and now we can show them and tell them how to get there. Like at the STEM family night, I have our tech center, Woodland Technical Center, to come in and talk to them about what is offered there, because that mind change they're different than what they used to be 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
They have engineering classes, they have bioengineering, they have aerospace engineering.
They're high tech. They're high tech centers, right?
Yes. And the students and parents need to realize that, and that they could dual enroll and they could come out with some certifications already being able to do a job while if they want to go to 4-year college or 2-year or whatever, they could still kind of be working at the same time because they have those certifications. And I think that's important because not everybody needs to go to a 4-year college. And I think that's something we need to, you know, bring out to them, that you need to decide what it is you want to do and what is it that you need.
I saw a Department of Labor statistics from 2019, but pretty recent. 55% of STEM jobs do not require a 4-year degree. So I think what you just said about bringing into your events the local technical community colleges and certificate pathways, and making sure students and parents are aware of that, because parents don't know about those things.
Right.
For sure. So by the way, everyone,
and changing, Josh, with that point, changing that stigma that you have to go to a 4-year college to get a good degree. I mean, I grew up like that. Tracy probably grew. My parents, like, if you don't get a 4-year degree, like you're going to be struggling in life. And that's not the case anymore. You can have a tech school degree. You can have, you know, so you can have an apprenticeship. I mean, there's kids that are welders that have an apprenticeship and no degree that are probably making way more money. I know they're making way more money than I'm making, but I wouldn't change my job. But that's what they want. But, you know, again, changing that stigma that you have to have a 4-year degree is that's not what everybody's life is.
Yeah. And I actually think more than half of the people that go to start a 4-year degree don't finish. So obviously we're pushing them in the wrong direction, many students. Amy, you mentioned Learning Blade for this aspect of the career awareness. Both of you have used Learning Blade, and we're so proud, honestly. We just beam in our office that both of you use it. But do you mind talking about how you've used Learning Blade, which is career awareness and STEM careers, in your classroom? And just tell us how you're implementing this free statewide resource. And as I mentioned that, I'll just share that, you know, it's a free statewide resource in lots of places. Let me just get to it, right? So if you're in one of these states, that are orange, it's free for your whole state. So how are you two STEM teachers of the educators of the year using Learning Blade in your classroom? Let's start with Amy on that one.
Okay. So last year with our hybrid situation, and many school districts were hybrid, that's when I started using it. And our students did Learning Blade at home and went through the missions on their own, independently. And then this year we implement them. We picked one mission for each grade level. So our 6th graders do dolphin rescue. Everybody wants to rescue that dolphin and that poor little pitiful dolphin, but they love it. And a lot of them have the connections because they've seen the Dolphin Tale movie. So it's an easy way to start getting that design process and those careers going. And then our 7th graders, because we have so much manufacturing going on around us, we've done the manufacturing the concept car. That's been the one we focused on this year. And then in our 8th grade one, we've done the robots, the robotic design. They absolutely love that because our classes are surrounded there. So we did it that way this year, and we do tools 1 9 weeks and teammates the other, and we call them our Learning Blade Fridays. So one every other Friday, the kids do Learning Blade and they interact, and we pull in the different activities and things. And it's been interesting to, again, listen to them talk about them. Some of the math and a couple of them aren't quite at their grade level, but it's been neat to be like, well, next year in 8th grade, you're going to learn this Pythagorean theorem. Let me show you how it works. But then when they see it, because I had a student this year who said, when we did the Pythagorean theorem, I remember last year when we did that in Learning Blade, so I knew what it was. So it's just, again, some of that early exposure and that real world connection to it. So we've really enjoyed doing it that way. For our program, it's worked great. I love that Learning Blade gives you the flexibility to do whatever you need to do. We do the ones, I don't think it's showing on the screen, the one that's the career clusters. We use that as our sub plan. So as we're out, we give 2 of those because they're self-paced, so the students can independently work. They're still learning STEM related and careers, but we don't need a teacher or someone in there instructing the information. And that has worked really well for us as well. And like I said, the kids love it. They were getting frustrated when we had to take a break from Learning Blade to finish something else because they, like I said, they wanted to rescue the dolphin. Like they wanted to learn more about the robotics stuff that they'd never heard of. So I love that they have those different careers that the kids aren't used to hearing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So it sounds like Learning Blade Friday, you guys mostly just, you focus in on Friday. That's how you're enriching that career connection through Learning Blade. That's
that
cool.
way for us, we found it was a good spread for the semester. So they were hearing lots of it and not just like a 1 week or 2 week chunk of time. We liked spreading it out.
That sounds great. And Tracy, how about you? How are you implementing it?
I use it a little different. So I use it with my project-based, problem-based units. So depending, I kind of move around depending on what we're talking about. So like in my energy and environment class, I go to energy sources and pull in like the renewable energy, and they work on like the wind energy, and then they build like a tetrahedral kite and we go out and fly them. It just kind of all connects. Also in my energy and environment, I do a wildlife design challenge, and let's see, I can't remember exactly where the animal things were. They're kind of, it was all several different ones. I just kind of jump in.
So you go a la carte. I call that going a la carte. You're picking and choosing a career or a lesson that perfectly or nicely supplements the project-based activity that you have for your class.
Exactly. And there's a lot of coding and computer science that's within all of the units. So, you know, just dealing with that. The webs really help with my choosing. I was going to ask you if you had a web, because that really helps, because that kind of shows me the different categories that I can say, oh, that looks good, and that will work with this project-based unit, and that one will go here. And so I just kind of make it connect with what I'm teaching and what I'm doing.
That's great. You know, I'm sort of curious if we can talk about robotics just for a second, Amy, because you've mentioned it a bunch of times. Like, where do you, as a STEM educator, and Tracy, feel free to share as well, where do you see the robotics future going, like for society in the next 5 decades? And how do we as educators prepare our students for that?
I think it's going to take off. I mean, I'm not seeing that robots are going to take over everything, but I do see a point in time where everything we do is automated in some way. You know, I can go to the McDonald's at my house there. If you go inside, you only can talk to the counter thing, and then somebody brings your food. I see that kind of stuff happening, just because it's an easier way. People like stuff that's fast and easy. I mean, think about yourself. If you can order it on your phone without standing in line, how many of you order it on your phone? I do. I can go in, I can pick up my food, and I can walk out, and I didn't have to stand in a line and wait. But you know, the more these kids see those opportunities and learn the different types of coding and just get that early exposure, that's where the job market is. And that's where I hear it in state meetings all the time. They have openings and there's not enough people to hire for them. So, I think that's going to become even bigger and bigger as we move down the road, it's unfortunately going to replace some jobs, but in a different way.
Yeah.
It's going to be enhancing the things that we can take that don't necessarily run as effectively and make them more effective in the future.
So you're seeing robotics, but I'm also hearing you say coding and computer science skills are fundamental to the future. What do you think, Tracy?
I agree with.
And then how do you address that in the classroom, both of you?
So I talk to my students because they talk about robots and 3rd generation robots and taking over the world, and all those shows that they watch and stuff. And I talk to them about that. It's not really that they're going to be taking over. It's just the jobs are going to change because you need a software engineer, a software developer for that robot. You need a mechanical engineer for repairs, so we talk about that the jobs are going to change. Like we have read some articles, like in California, they have robots that are actually being waiters. That will come and take your order, will deliver your food, and we talk about how do you feel about that? Trying to get that empathy in. I think it's important, like Amy said, to get the kids thinking this way and to realize that it's not that we're going to be losing jobs, it's just the jobs are changing and we have to be prepared for those jobs. And this is how we are prepared for them, by doing what we're doing in our classrooms and in high school and in college to be ready for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually was talking to a community college professor who teaches computer science, and she said her students are not even graduating because they're being scooped up by the businesses and industries that need to just train them on their processes. And so while that's not a good thing not to graduate, it's a sign of the incredible high demand for the skill. Right. And so,
but a lot of those companies are scooping them up, training them, and then paying for them to finish their degree. So it's a win-win for the kid. They're coming out less student loan debt and a career. I mean, think about it. When I was 21, I was making peanuts, and some of these software engineers are making money that I wouldn't have even imagined that was out there back then.
So what would your advice be to a new STEM teacher? You guys are obviously, you have incredible experience in STEM. What would your advice be to a new STEM teacher on how to get started in VEX robotics or in coding or computer science? What advice would you give? Tracy, we'll start with you.
Okay, wasn't sure.
Go ahead.
Well, Project Lead the Way is a great way to get started, but they don't have the hubs anymore, so the training is a little more complicated, and getting the districts to pay for the training, and the training's expensive. So I guess the best way, if they want to get started, to me, is through Learning Blade, because that, I mean, you have the STEM in there, and that will get you familiar with those careers and the STEM information, that then you can create your own curriculum from that if you need to.
Wow. I was not expecting that as the answer, but I'm pretty psyched to hear that. I mean, it's nice. I think we're a nice beginner step.
I was going to say the same thing as Tracy. I mean, if I didn't have my Project Lead the Way curriculum and this was given to me to start, it'd be great to go through a mission and do all the activities and all the collaboration. It's a great way to get started. So if you've got, so, you know, the states that have it free, if you don't have the funds and things, here's a free program. Most of the stuff that you guys sent, you know, have for build and design, you could easily treasure, like Tracy said, find, you know, maybe you don't have a CD and they ask for a CD, but you got a bunch of cardboard you can cut into rectangles. There's lots of ways to do it and everything's laid out there. So it's very user friendly. You know, I'll be honest, when I started, two of my classes were Project Lead the Way, and one they just said STEM. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to teach in that class? And they said STEM. And I spent a lot of time on Pinterest, just looking up ideas and then taking the design process and walking it backwards, just to make it more STEM. But, you know, it would have been great my first year to have this, to say, great, now I have somewhere to start. And there's lots of free resources. And I know there's people on this call, if you're in South Carolina, reaching out to those STEM centers. And I know lots of other states have those that have free resources or help set you up with opportunities, you know, reaching out to companies like code.org that offers free training to take the computer science from y'all's program and pushing it even further. You know, is there a lot of expensive good stuff out there? Yes, but there's a lot that you can do on a budget. When I started, they used to pick that if they gave me $5, I could stretch it for 500 kids. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but you learn very quick in this job to be frugal. But because you want the opportunities for that hands-on learning, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, folding some pieces of paper. Speaking of the little foldy people for Learning Blade, my 6th graders like loved those things. I thought they were going to start the little like, oh, Minecraft takeover looking guys all over the school. So I really was like, I don't know if they'll like this as middle school. Oh no, they love those little foldy people. I'm gonna
pull up a picture so people know what you're talking about. But
again, there's so many resources on the Learning Blade opportunities. There's there's interdisciplinary if your school's literary focused. I love that there's a homeschool connection if you want to do it. I mean, you got so many opportunities. Y'all have, these little foldy guys. What do you call them? Papercraft.
Yeah.
We call them the foldy guys. But yeah, they love doing this. And I just, at first I was like, they're not gonna like this. Oh no, they loved it. So, cool. You know, it's just the fun things that just make it a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more creative. And I love that you have states that have adopted it and realize how powerful the opportunities for it are.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, you know, over 5 million lessons have now been completed in Learning Blade, which we're super proud to be having that impact, and appreciate you guys sharing that. I guess as we sort of wrap up, you know, I want to ask you both, let me see my question here. I have a question. Oh yeah. So secrets, 2 things. We're going to do two last questions. The first one is advice to other teachers on being STEM-tastic. You know, I think it's hard to just walk in, like you said, STEM teachers. So like, what are some just go-to tricks of the trade of a STEM teacher? We'll
I think
start with
it's you just have to be passionate. You have to have an interest in it. If I just say tomorrow, if they took just some random science teacher and said, now you're going to be a STEM teacher, if they don't have a heart and a passion for it, it's not going to be effective. But if you have a heart and passion for helping students understand the why, understand the purpose, understand how this can impact their future, then you'll be STEM-tastic because it's motivating students. I mean, they come in, they're excited. You know, like I said, today was my first day with students, and my old students were like, can I just come back? And I'm like, other people have to have an opportunity. And they're like, why? So, you know, a lot of it's just sharing your passion and being excited about it. A STEM educator could not phone it in. You can't just show up and you're going to, maybe this is the lesson I'll do. No, you have to, because the kids want your full 100%, and they want to know why, the hows, and how it's going to impact their future. And that's, you know, how to be STEM-tastic. Just have a great passion for it.
And one question to Amy and then Tracy, your STEMtastic secret, or maybe to Tracy, how much of it is being willing to try something new and fail? Try a new experiment that you've never done before and fail as you're doing it, but then have the failure be the learning for everyone or something like that, Tracy. I mean, how important is that growth mindset to being a STEM teacher?
I think that's very important. When I first started, I had to bite my tongue and hold my hands because I wanted to get in there and do it. But, and I wanted to tell them how to do it. And that was something that I had to really kind of train myself. And the kids will get mad at me. They're like, Miss Elmore, I need help. Okay, well, and I'll give them, some suggestions or, coax them into the way, but I won't give them the answer or the how to exactly get it done. And they're like, but, I'm like, you can do this. Think about, what we've said, what you've learned, but, just making sure that collaborating with others is important. Networking with other STEM educators. I've learned so much from Amy over these past 2 years, or year and a half, whatever it is, Amy. I don't even know anymore. All the days just run together. But, just having that network where you can throw things out and say, what do you think about this? What if I did this? What if I didn't do this? But that failure is so important for the kids to see you fail and to overcome that, because you learn from your failures. And we talk about that in my class all the time. It's okay if you fail, not a problem. They're thinking, there's no gray area. It's this or this. And STEM's not like that. Life's not like that. And, we talk about that a lot in class.
I feel like STEM's one of those classes where you can create an environment where, instead of getting a red mark and failure means you lost points, failure could mean an opportunity for something, to design something better, right? But I like what you said too, Tracy, because I taught STEM, and I think what you said would be tops on my list was don't have the answer to every question, even if you got it. Let them struggle with finding the answer themselves. And
it's hard because you want to say it.
Well, and parents don't necessarily understand that. How come you're not giving my kids the solution to the problem?
I actually had a parent call. We had just really started. This is the advanced automation class. And she was like, my son was very frustrated. We were doing one of the breakout EDU boxes. And my son's very frustrated and said you wouldn't give him the answer. And I was like, no, sorry. And I explained, what they were doing and why and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, she was very upset that I did not give him the answer.
My help is I just ask them more questions. Like I ask, and they're like, and I'm like, no, and think the answer to the question yourself and then answer your own question. And it does, it frustrates them. But the students who stick with me for 2 years, 3 years, they know I'm not going to tell them the answer. And I tell them too, Tracy and I had the opportunity for Project Lead the Way. When you got trained, you took the class, an entire 9 weeks semester class in 4.5 days, like a student. And, there were days you cried because nothing worked and you wouldn't understand the directions.
It's like, oh no, I can't teach this.
Yeah. And so when we get to the harder lessons, I say to them, I'm like, listen, this is where I cried. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like that was day 3, hadn't slept and I had no clue what I was doing. And so I said, so if it frustrates you, leave it, walk away, think about it tonight and come back because tomorrow's a new day. And we say that a lot in here. If it's frustrating, walk away from it, look at it from a different point of view, because when they're in the real world, in any job, they're going to have days that nothing goes like you planned. And you've just got to pick yourself up and figure out what to do from there. And teaching them that is a big lesson.
Yeah, Amy, I do that as well. But I also sometimes say, if you get a different set of eyes, get someone else to look at it. They might can see something small that you didn't see, especially
or go look at someone else's idea. And I love when the kids are like, he's stealing my idea. And I'm like, he's not. He understands it because he saw your idea and now it makes sense. And that's a great compliment because you've helped them. They're like, oh, well, never mind. You want to come look at my idea? So, because sometimes it's just, we're visual. We got to see it. It doesn't make sense.
I got to be honest. I love listening to you talk back and forth. I do. It's like you are just giving up all the secrets right now to the mindset of what excellent STEM teachers sound like. So thank you. So if there's any questions from people that are tuned in, put them in the chat box. I'm going to ask my last one and then we'll look at the chat box. My last one is, it's been a tough couple of years for teachers. Do you guys have any secret strategies for keeping your sanity?
I will be honest, I have become the puzzle enthusiast. I do not crossword puzzles because that takes too much effort. I have done so many jigsaw puzzles. My husband said I had to give some jigsaw puzzles away. So I just sit on the weekends. That's my decompress time. And I just knock out a 1,000-piece puzzle in like the weekend. But finding something like that, or, going and watching it. I'm a big sports fan. So going and watching a sporting event and yelling and jumping around is a lot of fun for me. But it is trying to find that time to decompress. And the other thing is just been reminding myself that, yeah, we're still in a pandemic and life is still crazy, but at least the kids are getting opportunities, even if it may not have been the opportunity they got 3 years ago. They're still getting opportunities, and I'm doing what I can with the opportunities that I have available to them.
Powerful.
So cutting myself a break, I guess, is a good word.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Tracy, what about you? Any secret sauce? And there's 2 questions in the chat box we'll get to in a second.
I enjoy walking and I enjoy playing with my granddaughter. So those are my kind of decompressing. But yeah, forgiving yourself, like Amy said. It's not, we talked about that today actually at lunch, colleagues and myself, that you've got to just kind of forgive yourself and realize you're doing what you can for these students. And you're doing the best with the circumstances that we have. I mean, like Amy said, you have 40 students in your class because you have to cover somebody else's class or split classes. You do what you can for those students, and you love on them, and you let them know you love them and that you care for them, and they're going to respect you, and they're going to do their work, and they're going to do what they need to do.
We have some great questions. Let's go with this one. What role does the principal play in supporting in your excellent STEM programs? Either one of you.
A huge role.
How and why do you develop that relationship then?
So when I first started our STEM program at our school and I wrote that curriculum, I had a different principal. And I just kept going to her saying, we need STEM, we need STEM, we need STEM at our school. And finally, she got approved for an extra related arts teacher. And she came to me and said, are you still interested? And she said, if you want to do it, you have to write the curriculum over the summer. You're not getting paid for doing this. And I only have $500. And that's where my trash to treasure came from, because that's how I began. The principal that I have now is very eager with STEM. He loves STEM. He is willing to do whatever we need for our STEM programs that we have, our classes. He will lean over backwards trying to get money if we need it, the best that he can. He sticks his neck out to the district office on things. I mean,
can I ask a question on that? So your principal, how does he know that he wants to support you then? Are you inviting him to your class when you've got great projects? You're not waiting for him to show up. You're saying, come down to my classroom. You got to see what STEM project we worked on this week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when we do, like, we do hot air balloon launches, we do robot race cars, clawbots, BattleBots, all that. All of our administrations are invited to that, as well as district office people, business people, just trying to get them in to the school to see what these kids are learning, especially the businesses, because they're like, oh, I need that. That's a skill that they're going to need when they come work for me, kind of like what Amy had talked about in the beginning. So it's important to invite those people. And it's hard to get businesses in because of the times that are available for the students to do their stuff. That's why we've been trying to do some night things. But going out to like the Rotary Club or the Optimist Club is important too, because
Or the Chamber of Commerce, yeah.
so they
So
can
Amy,
see.
can you quickly answer the principal thing? And then I'm going to throw to you, how does the after-school role play programs in the sustainability of your STEM program?
Well, I'm on my third principal since I started, but my original principal is the one that blessed me with this job. He came to me and he's like, listen, what do you think of this? And when he told me, I was like, sold, like right now I'm going. My current principal is amazing though. Same kind of idea like Tracy. He comes to me and asks me questions like, what else can we do? How else can we help? You know, what else can we provide? We're hoping to push, like Tracy's doing, more opportunities into our math and science classes for the STEM to be more integrated. We're working through all of those types of things. But he's in here all the time, coming through, checking things out. One of our assistant principals, the 8th graders, she's the 8th grade assistant principal. Anytime we have a build, she is our judge. So she comes and picks her favorites and the ones that not only, you know, I grade them, but she picks the ones that she feels met the criteria the best. So they don't even just have to impress me, but now they have to impress the boss.
Yeah.
So it's great. And they love it. They love to have them come in and see. And our program, especially my 8th graders, work strongly with our autism students at our school, bringing them in, having them be part of our designs and our plans and our projects. And then the autism kids come through and judge as well. And they love to test out the kids' ideas, to give their feedback, to try. And so the kids will get sneaky. They'll be like, oh, I know so-and-so likes Mickey Mouse. So they'll put Mickey Mouse in their project, just try to win that vote. But it's great because it has their heart reaching out to the other kids in our community and our school. And, you know, it's great. But I love that my principal sees that connection and sees that STEM is not just improving these kids, it's improving their livelihood as well. And so
Awesome.
I'm blessed enough that my admin team sees that.
And can you quickly say, do after-school programs in either of your schools play a role in developing the STEM philosophy of the school, the STEM programs?
We do not have we had an after-school program for a few years because we had an after-school grant, and it did help get my program off and running at the beginning. We do not have one anymore because we find in our area, it's just with parents' work schedules, we just don't have a way to transport them home, get them like after school. If they didn't ride that initial bus home, they don't have a way.
Do you think that an after-school program, though, could have students working on academic lessons in Learning Blade to build their STEM knowledge?
It could possibly. I could totally see something like that. Again, picking a mission and going through it and doing some of the different activities in there. Absolutely. Or using your parent connection that you have in Learning Blade to be opportunities. I could completely see that happening as well. So if anybody, you know, if an after school alliance wanted to try that, it'd be a great way to, you know, again, free resources, opportunities to get started.
I think that question came from Kentucky, where Learning Blade's free for all after school programs.
Good job,
Tracy, did you have any after school thoughts? And then we'll wrap it up.
I mean, we do have after school like STEM club that the kids have, and I think it really does help. It encourages others, because I have other students now saying, can I get in STEM club? How do I get in STEM club? And I'm like, we have enough right now. We have over 30 students. That's enough for right now. But, you know, another way, just to piggyback off of a couple things, when, for instance, like the lightweight aircraft in Learning Blade, where they make the paper airplanes and they test them with the payloads.
Yep.
We have our administrators come in and they actually make their own paper airplane and they compete against the students, and
I love it.
they love it. The kids just get thrilled about that. So it's important to have your administrators involved like that, because the kids get to see them in a different light instead of just an authoritarian, that they're actually doing some builds and stuff with them.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Well, you two are amazing. I've known it for years, but now others that have not met you hopefully saw it. And I just want to thank you both for your time. I want to thank all the people that tuned in for tuning in. The recording will be shared out next week after our second interview session. And so hopefully you can share that with your colleagues. Get that recording and share it with your STEM teachers and say, listen to these two STEM Educators of the Year talk about how and why they do what they do. So Tracy, Elmore, Amy Baldwin, much thank you to both of you for being amazing and for everything you're doing. So I'm going to wrap it up there and end it, but thank you. And cheers.
Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
you.
We got hearts, we got applause, we got all sorts of good stuff. Thank you both very much. Talk to you later. See you next
Bye.
week. That was really good.
That was great.
All right.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, Thomas. Thank you. All right, hanging up.